Last time, I don't think the majority of the brothers were here. We mentioned about forms of spiritual training that the mashaykhs put the seeker through different types of training, so that if you understand what these exercises and trainings are, then it makes it easier, makes our journey easier to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because person will go through certain things along his journey, especially the mashaykhs put them through 7 particular things. So before we start, inshallah, you should praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and peace and salutations upon the beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now it's important that we understand that whatever is going to be said today, what the mashaykhs said, that you have to think that it is for you, and for you to act upon, and for you to develop, or for you to change whatever you need to change. Now, if you think that is for somebody else and not for you, then the mashaykhs have mentioned that from that point onwards, you have been cut off. You won't receive the blessings, you won't receive it, you won't understand what's going on, and you won't move forward, because from that moment on, it's just you've been cut off from that point. Because this is, every seeker should think that whatever the mashaykhs mention, I'm just conveying the message. That's all I'm doing. I'm just a means. Wherever the mashaykhs mentioned, then it is for the seeker himself. So, like I mentioned, that the mashaykhs put the seekers through 7 forms of spiritual training, and when they go through each one, then you can assess yourself as well. Where am I now? And how can I go forward as well? So, first, before we start, obviously, you have to understand what it is, and once you start having knowledge of certain things, it becomes easier. For example, you have a problem, and you go to a specialist. Say, for example, you got a car problem. You don't know, your car's just like, it cuts off, every 5 minutes. You don't know what the problem is, so you take it to a mechanic, and when the mechanic looks at your car and he repairs your car, then it makes say, for example, you've not taken it anywhere for weeks on end, so you're taking this mental stress and headache, and then what happens is you take it to a mechanic, and the mechanic looks at your car and says, okay, this is the problem and this is the cost to repair it. So then, okay, at that moment in time, you're just happy to pay whatever just to get rid of the stress from your mind. So you pay, and he repairs your car. But the thing is, now you've understood the problem and you found a solution, and it makes it a lot easier in your mind, mental stress, you feel a lot better as well. The same way that when you understand, what the mashaykhs are saying, the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just the journey of man, and the first stage, the second stage, and the third stage. That's not the path. Wherever you learn from that, that's the start of the path. And then from the discourses of the mashaykhs, there's many, many things that you can learn to implement, not just listen and go through your mind. So one of the questions that you need to ask when you come here, like, for example, first thing is that obviously you got up early in the morning, so there must be sincere people get up early in the morning and try to come here. So there's some sincerity there, but then you have to understand that, okay, so you've come 5:30 in the morning, maybe from different towns, you've come here. So the first thing is that the knowledge that you're going to learn, how you're going to commit it to memory. Meaning, for example, if somebody gave an hour discourse, so would you remember this discourse in your mind? So how would a person do it? So first thing is that a person comes at 5:30 in the morning, and what I'm trying to say is, how will you remember this? How will you remember the discourse? Otherwise, you're just going to come in through one ear and out through the other ear. So that's the question that you need to ask yourself. How will I remember this? That whatever I'm going to learn today, how will I remember this? Now, if you got no plan whatsoever in terms of remembering it, so you just come for the day, maybe get some blessings and just go home. But the actual fact of coming here was to learn something so you can implement it. Now, if you've not, if you come here, but how you're not going to learn, meaning in a sense that you're not going to commit it to memory, or there's no form, you've not made any plans to record what he's saying or what the mashaykhs are saying, then how will you be able to act upon it? You won't be able to act upon it. So it's very, very important that, I'm not saying write the full bayan, but at least just commit some of the points, some of the points, you maybe jot it down on notes or whatever, so then you remember afterwards as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's very, very important, that for you to take something away, first either you have a very powerful memory that stays in your memory, or second is at least take some notes, because this is very, very important, because people go through the same thing over and over and over again. They say, or they come and they say, oh, I feel weak, I can't do my amals. So understand the base of it. Why can't you do your amals? There's something that's missing from your life that used to be there before, is not there anymore. So what is that missing link to stopping you from doing the amals? So there is something there missing. And this is inshallah what we're going to talk about, the 7 forms of spiritual training. If you have time, so inshallah we'll cover all of it, if not part of it, and then next time inshallah we'll cover the rest. So the mashaykhs are saying that when a person physically goes through different exercises to make his physical body healthy, there are exercises, for example, the person goes running or he goes to the gym, and then eventually what happens is his body becomes strong and he develops energy and stamina, by doing exercise. For example, a person who does exercise and a person who doesn't do exercise, there's a big difference. The person who does exercise, he'll develop energy, stamina, which other people who don't do, they won't develop this kind of things. And also keeping the body healthy, it stays away from diseases. And so what you don't want is, you don't do any exercise now, you're fit and healthy, okay, but later on in life what will happen is, because of the lack of exercise you've done and the lack of good food that you've ate, then you don't want to keep on running to the hospital, oh, I've got this problem, or I've got that problem. So later on in life it can affect you as well. So it's good to keep the body healthy and to eat healthy as well. So same way, for the body to develop, same way the person's spirituality needs to develop as well. If he's not training himself, then he will get certain diseases in his heart, and these diseases will affect him for the hereafter as well, in the grave, on the day of judgment. It can affect this person. So, and the effect is long term, not short term. So inshallah I'm gonna, because I've done this speech already, but I'm previously, so I'm just gonna quickly recap over it, so then we can go on to the next. This is only the first point. Then the second, we've got 7 points to cover, so inshallah hoping to cover it. So what the Mashaykh is saying, for this reason the human beings cannot really know the spirit, because the spirit is hidden inside the body. So the person will not know how to develop this. For example, for a physical body, we know that, okay, we need to go to the gym, do some exercise, and we're developing the physical body. But the spirituality of the person, he won't know how to develop this. And not only that, he can't even see his spirit. He can't see the spirit, so how can he develop this? So this is the reason what the Mashayikh is saying, that it's extremely impossible for the person to develop this by himself. Now you get people there's people who come up to you, they might have some education in terms of the Islamic sciences, and recently a person came up to me or to us, and he was saying that he's got permission to teach in all the sciences of all the suluks of Tazkiyah, and he wanted permission like he wanted to teach this path as well, without even knowing anything about the path, without even sitting with a teacher or any of the students. He thought that he can take the path and teach it to his students, and whatever diseases or difficulties they go through, he can give the answers to that as well. So this is how people's mentality are, that the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that easy, that you just pick up a book and you read it and say, okay, I'm qualified to teach the path. So it's not like that. It's very, very difficult, and without a proper teacher, a person will be not only he'll be misguided, but he'll misguide others along the way as well. And you can see that many in the past as well, who came, and not only he got misguided, people have lost their iman as well, and at the same time, their students were misguided as well. So it's extremely difficult, almost impossible for them to know how to exercise the spirit. Even, so for example, with the body, so when a person does exercise, it's still difficult, isn't it? It's not easy going to the gym, spending about 45 minutes or an hour in the gym. It's still hard. So imagine if the body is hard, then how difficult will it be to exercise the spirit? And now the spirit is it's hidden matter, because we can't see this and we don't know how to train this. And for this reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mercy upon the human beings and showed them the exercises of the spirit and souls through the agency of prophethood and the friends of Allah. They came and they showed the people, okay, this is your physical body. Majority of the people, you see books and books and books written on, you go on YouTube and there'll be every single fitness instructor saying, okay, if you want to get rid of this stomach, this is what you do. Then the next one will say something else. Then the third one will say something else. So you get confused. But if you look in the spirits, how to develop the spirit, how to train the spirit, you won't find any books anywhere. You won't find it. And the ones that you find is absolutely, it's not true, meaning that they've just written it out of what the person, the PhD person or scholars, they call it the PhD scholar of the worldly sciences. He's written a book on how to develop your soul or spirit. But that's according to his understanding. It's nothing to do with what's passed on from the Prophet ﷺ all the way down to the current generation. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ, the messengers have come, they've learned from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they've come and passed it on to the people, to mankind. So imagine the teacher is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a person can't just go and say, okay, I'm from a book and you can start teaching this. You can't teach stuff like this because this is only taught by the teacher. So now those people who pay attention to those things will be trained and they will develop. But the ones who don't pay attention, for example, if your teacher is saying something and you've been shown a path and how to walk on the path, now if you don't pay attention, you won't develop and you'll suffer. So they will suffer a death punishment in the grave for not perfectly developing themselves. So the person will get punished in the grave. He'll get punished because he's corrupting the spirit. The spirit, when it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was pure. So what he's done, he's dirtied it by doing certain things. So then what will happen is the person who's not developing his spirit and purifying himself, what will happen is that because he's dirtied it and is showing ungratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him something so pure and he's went and done something so wrong with it. So the person who has destroyed this, he deserves punishment. Same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like for instance, I've just mentioned that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the spirit to us, and now we have to utilize this spirit in the right manner as well. Not only, for example, develop the spirit, but then utilize it as well. So what the Mashaykh is saying, that it can develop very highly. You know, this spiritual being, when the spirit is developed, it can develop very highly. It can attain a very high rank. You know, for example, there's many things. Obviously, we know from the past stories of the awliyas how they've talked about this subject in a sense that how it can develop as well, and how they become very high pious people and friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So like I'm saying, I'm just doing a quick recap so that we can move on to the next thing. So what the Mashaykhs are saying, that the person will suffer in this life and the hereafter for the suffering as well. So for example, he'll be like a runaway slave. You know, this person, is because he's not developed his spirituality. What will happen is he's running like a runaway slave, and this will where he'll suffer in this life as well. So everywhere he goes, for example, not only he'll suffer, but he'll make others suffer as well for not developing his spirituality. Anybody who connects to, there'll always be some fighting between themselves, and the other person. This happens all the time. I thought somebody sees a person in a robe, he sees the Amama Shave, he sees the Jabba and everything, and then when they deal with the person, they say, well, I thought, this guy was pious. I thought this guy was righteous person. When you give some money to somebody, somebody says, I'm in desperate need of some money. So the person asks for money, you give him the money, and then a year later, you still not receive your money. And he promises you, I'll give it you within 3 months. Then what happens is, because of this, of your connection, of your spirituality not developed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what happens. The shaitan comes in, affects you, or, I borrowed £500 or whatever, and then you find it difficult to pay it back. Because you don't know that, to hold somebody's money and on purposely and not pay anything back, even though you can afford to pay it back, then there's a grave punishment, because you're violating the rights of the other person. And if a person knows that, okay, I'm violating the rights of other persons, how can I go anywhere else? A person goes to Umrah and other places, and he's violating the conditions of other people. Even Sayyidina Abdul Aziz Dabagh Rahimahullah, in one of the other discourses, they mentioned that, don't come to me until you've fulfilled the rights, until the person's rights you have violated, until you've sorted that problem out, also until you've made the other person happy, in that sense, to the nearest meaning. So a person can't go, that's the rule. Anyway, that's the rule. Person can't go to Umrah when he owes money to somebody else, because he won't get nothing in return. He'll be wasting his time. So that's the fundamentals of Islam, that a person fulfills the rights of the people. And I was reading the other day in one of the books of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like when a person reads Quran, and when he needs to speak to somebody else, in his heart he needs to take permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before he speaks to the other person. He's not allowed to just think the Quran and start speaking, because he's in the presence of Allah. When the person is reading the Quran, he's in the presence of Allah. Now when he's in the presence of Allah, how can you, for example, if I'm talking to you, and suddenly, say if I'm talking to a person, or you talking to another person, suddenly you just like turn your head and just walk off. Is that what you would do? You wouldn't do that to a human being. So when in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, you're reading the Quran, and before you leave the Quran, then in your heart you take permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And same way, when a person reads the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he takes permission from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the heart before he leaves the hadith and starts speaking to somebody else. So these are the things, fundamental things that you have to understand, that there's certain rights over certain things. If you do it the proper way, then you will get a lot of reward. If you don't do it, then the reward won't be there. Rather, you might commit a sin. So the first thing that the Mashaykh said to be trained is through zikr and reflection, zikr and muraqabah. So zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the life of the heart. So the person who doesn't do zikr, there's no life in his heart. And the spirit, the life of the heart and the spirit. Zikr is the remembrance, and remembrance is the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So zikr and muraqabah is a reflection. Muraqabah is the reflection, deep thinking, engaging the spirit. So wherever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, in many places He has mentioned the zikr and fikr. So what happens is, a person when he does the zikr, so he starts giving food to the spirit. So the spirit starts developing. And when he gives muraqabah, he gives water to the spirit. So a person needs food and water. So to develop the spirit, the first number one fundamental thing is that the person has to do his zikr, his personal amals, whatever zikr has been given, and whatever meditation has been given. So he needs to do this. It's very, very important. So he needs energy in his body. Without the energy, he won't be able to do anything. That's why many people fall, because at one time they were like, when they were doing their zikr and meditation, they were like strong, and they could do everything. So it gave them the boost to do dawah, it gave them the boost to do everything else. The other amals, refrain from the sins of the tongue or refrain from the sins of the eyes. So the course was made easy for the person because he had that spiritual energy inside his body to do these things, to fight the shaitan. He had this energy inside him. But then when the person becomes weak, he doesn't reflect what happened along the way, along my journey, what happened. There's something that's gone missing. So when he stops his zikr and meditation, then he should just think that, okay, I know what's going on. My zikr and meditation has been missing, and that's why I've become weak. And when I've become weak, and that's where it's affected me. That's where I can't refrain from the disease of the eyes and the tongue and other things. So when a person doesn't do it, it affects him so much. The person doesn't know, because obviously like the spirit is hidden, is inside you. The person doesn't know what effect it's having upon the person when he's not doing his zikr meditation. He might think, the next day he might still be able to, refrain from the sins. Sometimes for weeks, for 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks, the person can still stay strong. Because, for example, imagine the effects. For example, if somebody has been training, say, for 6 months, he's been training, or 1 year, and he's developed his body a certain way, and suddenly he starts eating junk, So the first day he's going to start eating junk, the second day, the third day. It's not going to have an effect on his body because the effects of the 1 year's training is still apparent on his body. But then what happens after maybe 4 weeks, then suddenly he starts getting a little bit of a belly, and he starts thinking, something's happening here. Then the body starts changing, he starts developing a little bit of fat. So it happens that after weeks, so the same way in the spirituality, when the person does zikr meditation, what happens is that it doesn't have an effect straight away. Sometimes it can take 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. He might have energy up until 6 weeks, and then boom, suddenly it's all gone. It's become weaker and weaker and weaker, and then what happens is the shaitan attacks him at his low point, and then it's very difficult for this person to get back up. It's very, very difficult, and he can't resist the evil temptations of the shaitan. So what the Mashaykh is saying, that why put yourself through this hardship? Why? When you can just do, if you can't do anything, just do a little bit of zikr and meditation, and that will keep you connected. And what will happen is then you won't have to go through this type of problems all the time, because it happens all the time, because people feel up 1 minute they're very high, next minute they're very down. But what this will do is it'll keep them at a steady pace if they carry on doing it. So this is a trap. where people think that, oh, nothing's happening to me. It will happen. It will happen when you stop the zikr meditation. It will happen. So the Mashayikh is saying this is a trap of misunderstanding with some people. For when they're doing zikr, they think you're fine, and when they aren't doing, they think you're fine. But only after weeks and months, they know sometimes that the body, which stores energy inside the body, now that storage has gone. The storage is gone, and then the person will be finished. But and as well, when the person tries to bring his levels back up, yeah, it can take. See, for example, if a person's not been doing zikr meditation for months on end, and then when he does it for the first day, then he'll say, brother, you know, I did my zikr meditation last week. I don't feel any different. I don't feel any different. So what you're expecting, what you're feeling, yeah, the time when you used to do regular zikr meditation, yeah, and you used to feel some presence of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever you was feeling at that time. So you now saying that, oh, you want that same back within one day of zikr meditation. That's not going to happen. The amount of time it took you to reach up there, that it might take you the same amount of time to get back up there as well. So you have to be regular on this. So it's not something that you can do. So the first one we just said is zikr meditation. Now the second one is how the Mashayikhs train a person to fight against the shaitan. So the first is zikr meditation, and the second is through different amals that the Mashayikhs give, different practices. And what they are the sheets, maybe sheets of ikhlas, the prophetic sunnahs, the spiritual prayer, and other things like this that they give, you know, the askars that we read and stuff like this. So this is part of the package. People just think that doing the zikr and the meditation, yeah, that's the only thing they need to do. No. So part of package of training the spiritual person to training spirituality, and the second fundamental thing which is needed is all of this, that he does his sheets, he does his prophetic sunnah, so whatever he's been assigned to do, then he does this. So zikr and meditation, yeah, what this will do is this will bring you to the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this will also treat many evil diseases, but this is needed at the same time as well. And the way that zikr meditation helps as well is that another thing is, like, for example, when a person is doing his zikr meditation, at that moment in time, he's in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if he's in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he's not going to be on Facebook, is he? You know, flicking through Facebook, going through WhatsApp, yeah, flicking through TV channels. So he's not going to be doing this. So what he's doing is he's in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. So this is helping him refrain from sin at that moment in time. So what the Mashaykh is saying, that if the person doesn't engage himself in something busy, then the shaitan and the nafs will engage himself, will make him engage in something useless. So useless things. Imagine when you have some spare time, what do you do? I've got spare time, so let's get the phone. The disease of this world today, if you don't utilize the mobile phone in a correct manner, it's a very evil disease. You know, sometimes you like flicking through, and maybe 1 hour and 2 hours just gone by, and you've not even realized. You know, so in useless things. And in them 2 hours, you could have done so many things to develop that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you could have had, and then you say, brother, can you spare some time for dawah? Brother, I've got no time. That's the truth, isn't it? People got time because they're still texting 1 o'clock in the morning on WhatsApp. Or they're going through Facebook where they're sharing a post. So you know that this brother's been on sharing it, and then when it comes to like dawah and stuff, he hasn't got time. So why are you spending your time? Allah subhanahu has given us 24 hours in a day. You only spend certain hours sleeping and certain hours you do working. So there's plenty of time, but it's the importance that we've not given. That's the thing. because you've not given it importance. Like for example, if you had an appointment today, say at 10 o'clock or whatever, you've got an appointment. So you will try your best to reschedule everything for that appointment that you've got at 10 o'clock, whether it's at the doctor's or the dentist. It might not even be a very important appointment, but it might just be a checkup. But you're not going to say, oh, well, you know what, maybe I'll go next time, and you don't inform the doctors or whatever. Yeah, you'll try your best to make that time. And same way, when the kids have to go to school and you have to wake them up early in the morning, you'll try your best to make sure that they get out of that house and reach school on time. So the person has this importance and ability to do this, but then he doesn't utilize this. So he doesn't utilize. So what happens is he wastes his time, and then the shaitan uses him, and the nafs makes him busy. So the mashaykh is saying it's not as simple as, I'm not doing anything, it's fine. You know, when people say, oh, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, it's fine. It's only a matter of time when the shaitan will just attack you and make you do something wrong. It's just a matter of time. So they're saying that you'll fall into something useless or evil things. And what they're saying is like, imagine a fertile ground, yeah? And when you're not doing anything, you're just waiting on the shaitan to put his seeds in there. And then what will happen, the seeds will develop. So at that moment in time, you weren't doing anything, it's fine, okay. But shaitan has sowed his seeds, and it's just a matter of time when he attacks you. And then that's it. So he will roam around looking for things to do, and then eventually he might have good intentions, but you know the tricks of the shaitan, how from something so good. For example, our intention was come here to get to the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then along the way, the shaitan can put other thoughts into your mind, saying, I wish I was at home in bed, or I wish I never came. Or even when the person leaves his prayer, suddenly he's praying on his own, and suddenly a person sits there, and he realizes somebody's come along now, and now he makes his raku and sujood longer. So he had a good intention to pray his salah, praise namaz, he had a good intention, but suddenly the intentions have just changed completely. The shaitan's just put that thought, oh, somebody's come here, yeah, oh, make it look good. You know, so things like this, and people do this all the time. So be who you are, and don't try to think. But the point here I'm making is, there's the split second, your good intentions can be ruined, and your good deeds can be ruined in a split second. That's why you have to always rectify your intentions. So the third thing now, so the first is zikr meditation, the second is the sheets that you've been given. So that's part of the training as well. So don't think that is not part of the training. Any one of these things that are missing, then it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you. So third thing is that another method is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the mashaykhs, obviously they're the means from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but through gatherings of knowledge and collective zikr gatherings and durood and salam, when a person attends these gatherings, then this will develop him as well. So these are all important. Like a doctor gives different tablets and syrups. For example, okay, take one tablet in the morning, one tablet in the evening, and then increases the doses next time you see him. Then he says, okay, take this syrup. So whatever disease that you have, then the doctor will give you different things. So same way in these gatherings, this is what happens. That you've got your own personal amals and everything, that's important. But then you've got the collective gatherings where different doses has been given as well. So this will help the person. So a person who's practicing and the person who's non-practicing, it will help them both. So the ones who are practicing, for example, you're doing your amals and everything, and then you come to the gathering, what will happen is it will create a want and a thirst inside you that will make you steadfast. So attending the gatherings will make you steadfast. It will give you more sincerity. It will give you knowledge to practice on, and it gives you the power to convey the message as well. So Allah subhanahu will give you the strength to convey the message. It re-establishes the relationship with Allah subhanahu. So that connection with Allah subhanahu, which has been lost throughout the week or whatever, when you come to these gatherings, what will happen is it will again reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in these gatherings there are certain moments that if a person has the right mood and state, they can be blessed with spiritual enlightenment. Spiritual gifts will be given in such gatherings. Sometimes the angels come, the spirit of the mashaykhs are paying attention, and other things are happening, and they can be blessed by these things. So if a person just comes to these gatherings, okay, his intention is to come to learn knowledge and to be closer to Allah, and suddenly from that one gathering, the person can be blessed in such a way that he can't even imagine. And also, this training is necessary. So until a person purifies himself, until reaches a level of purification, then he needs to attend these gatherings. It's important for this person. It's part of his training process. So a person can never say, "Oh, I'm purified." So everybody needs this. Do you know what I mean? Person can't say, "Well, I'm not coming to the gathering now because I'm a purified person." I mean, people might have difficulties in attending the gathering, yeah. But what I'm saying is that if the person, there's no difficulty in attending the gathering, it's just enough saying, "Oh, don't go," then this is part and parcel of your training that is needed for you to develop. And even the mashayikh is saying that it is not useful for these people to even go into seclusion. Then you get people all the time saying, "Oh, well, brother, I want to do 40-day chilla, you know what I mean? I want to seclude myself." Well, if you're not purified yourself, then being in the chilla, you might just end up being on your phone on Facebook. So for 40 days, instead of remembering Allah, you're remembering Facebook or going through WhatsApp. And it happens as well. People are in a khalwat and they're still on their phones because you see them on WhatsApp. Last seen at this. Nothing is hidden now. Everything is apparent. People think. So what they tend to do now is they hide they go into settings and they hide the last seen part. So nobody knows. So nobody knows what time they've come on. So it's important that we understand this point. Otherwise, we'll go. Even going in seclusion, the person can go astray. In seclusion, and it's happened in the past as well that many people, they went into the jungle and they went into the mountains and they thought, okay, I'm going to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this way. And then what happens is when they come amongst the people, then they can't control themselves. And when they can't control themselves, what happens is then certain things happens and certain diseases enter the person, and then he finds it difficult. Tell you one story of a person that I know. Well, I knew in the past that his father sent him into our room to do hifz of the Quran. Now, mashallah, he kept a beard. All his brothers, father had the same routine. Set them all into our room, so they do hifz of the Quran. So they all did hifz of the Quran, and then when they came back out, they went at a young age, and when they came back out, because they hadn't seen the world or anything, suddenly the beard became shorter and shorter, and then the whole beard was taken off of one of the person, and then suddenly the alcohol came into his life, so he started drinking alcohol, then he started seeing women, then he started opening brothels and all this sort of thing, and this person went in from a young age to become a hafiz of the Quran. And this person, to I know, is maybe in similar state now. Well, this is what happens is because what the parents have to understand is that this is the year 2017. This This is not 1980s or 1970s. There's certain things that are here now that wasn't there. Like, first of all, social media. How many youngsters you have mobile phone, and what they tend to do is they go on, we think, oh, just check, they have a Facebook account, you look at the Facebook, right, everything's okay. They look at WhatsApp, everything's okay, he's not talking to girls or anything. Then they have another account called Instagram, and whatever WhatsApp could do, Instagram can do as well. So then now privately, they like chatting to the opposite gender, and then what they do is when the parents check the phone, they already deleted it. They already deleted the app. So the parents look, oh yeah, everything's fine. And then what they do is they download the app again. As soon as the parents give the phone back, they download the app, and then it all starts again. So the parents just think by looking at the phone that everything's okay. But this is what I'm saying. In our day and age, we didn't have PS4s with GTAs, and other things like that. I had an Amstrad CPC 464. I can still remember. And we had, to play the game, we had cassettes and we stick it in. And the graphics were like, today's day and age, the graphics were like completely awful, And and to play the game, you had to go on the keyboard, and you had to type the buttons like you're pressing the cursor buttons to play the games. And at that time, there was innocence. That's what the point I'm making. At that time, there was innocence. In this day and age, is very, very difficult, because the opportunities that Shaitan are presenting is unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know what I mean? So you have to, if you're not clued up about this, then your son or daughters will, make your head spin, meaning that they'll like take you for goose chases everywhere. You think, oh yeah, I've got them red-handed, then they've got something else on the side. Because that's why you have to learn about these things as well. It's very, very important that your sons and daughters know. Then there's Snapchats, and they're going on Snapchat. Snapchat is such that when you send something to somebody, that only stays for a certain amount of time, then it disappears. So the whole evidence is just gone. The whole evidence is gone. So so the person can be chatting to the opposite gender, send photos or whatever, and then within minutes it can just all go. So that there's no evidence of the messages that's been sent. So things like this is important, so the person knows. So if a person doesn't take his medicine, then what will happen is, so the three parts that we mentioned, the third, which is the gathering. If he doesn't take his medicine, then disease will show. The disease will start becoming apparent in his heart. So they say that gatherings are like fuel stations. When your car runs out of petrol, you go to the petrol station, you put the petrol in, and now suddenly you've got petrol and you can drive around. Same way when you come to the gatherings, it gives you that energy as well. It gives you that boost. So if you run low, then always remember, if you feel weak, always remember, don't run away from the gatherings. People do the opposite. They think, oh, no, what are people going to say? Why should I come? If I go to the gathering, they'll all look at me funny and this, that, and that. No, because you're here and it's your relationship with Allah SWT. Don't mind what other people are saying. So it's your relationship with Allah SWT. So you should think, okay, you know what, I'm feeling weak, so I need to attend the gathering. So fuel up in the gathering and then go back and you'll become strong. That's why I say, now, Shaykh, look at this point. Yeah, this is so amazing. When I was reading it, I thought, wow, this is absolutely amazing point. That when Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahimullah, during one of his gatherings, he saw Hazrat Khidr radiallahu anhu just walking past. Imagine that. Imagine Hazrat Khidr radiallahu anhu. People died to meet Hazrat Khidr radiallahu, and he's just like walking past, and Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahimullah saw him. And he requested him to come and sit in the gathering. He requested Hazrat Khidr to come and sit in the gathering. And then another disciple, in a split second, he came all the way from Palestine another disciple. At that time, look, when a person develops himself, look at the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses the person. So imagine how far Palestine is and how far, Iraq is. So in a split second, he came from Palestine to learn from Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahimahullah. And what did Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahimahullah said? That these, that people, or even these people, are also in need of listening to my discourses. Even these people are in and learning the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more and more, so they can develop more and more. So it doesn't mean that the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't end in this world. It carries on in the grave, it carries on in the hereafter. Because the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not limited, it's unlimited. You know what I mean? So a person can't say that I've become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You become, even if you have become close to Allah, you come to a certain level or a certain degree, you become close. There's always more. There's always more. It never ends. In Jannah as well, the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never end. So the person, for eternity, he can get more closer and more closer and more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it never ends. So the three things I mentioned is within the choice of a person, in the person's ability and the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this person. He can do these things and he should do these things. The Mashaykh is saying that he can do it and he should do these things if he wants to progress on this path. So the fourth one is problems and afflictions with the right reactions. Now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants a person to reach a certain level and he's not reached that level for whatever reason, and he can't be reached through zikr and meditation, then he gets promotion. This is called promotion. And what is this promotion? The promotion is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends him problems and afflictions so that he can reach that level. He can reach at a higher level. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to reach a higher level, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send him problems and afflictions. Now if you look at the lives of the prophets, see, we always take this the wrong way. Why have I got problems? Why have I got afflictions? But if you look at the lives of the prophets, who was the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Our beloved Prophet, Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the closest. Then why did he have so many afflictions and problems? Just think. So when a person gets affliction and problems, he always thinks negative. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing this to me? Or what have I done today? This, that. But think that what the Mashaykhs are saying is that the person is getting promoted. He's getting promoted. Imagine that. Now if a person thought like this, he'd live his life very easily. Because he'd be happy all the time. If something good happened, do shukr. If anything is wrong, anything went wrong, then he'd say, "Oh, Alhamdulillah, because I'm getting promoted." Everybody likes promotion. Everybody likes a promotion of money, or position when they get promoted. Well, nobody likes this type of promotion. So the fifth is the inner states. So the Mashaykh will train the person through his inner states. So what types of feelings are you going through? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you inclined towards goodness? Or you don't feel like doing anything? You know what I mean? So these are all development of the person, of the seeker. So the person is going to different states: happiness, pleasure, sadness, grief, even the whispers of the shaitan coming into this. So all these are classed as inner states. So a person won't be sinful. He won't be sinful of the feeling of these types of things. He won't be sinful. You know what I mean? So you have to realize this, that even today people are still asking the same question: brother, I feel like this, or I feel like that. Well, the feeling doesn't make you a sinner. The feeling doesn't make you a person who has committed a sin. And neither having good feelings, having good feelings to do good deeds will not make you pious. Person is, today I feel like doing zikr, today I feel like going to the masjid, today I feel like giving dawah. Well, has that made you pious? It's not made you pious, has it? Until you get up and do it. Until you get up and do it, then there's some kind of piety within you. And same way, the feelings of different types of feelings that person go through, then he won't get charged for this. So the person shouldn't fight the feelings. So feelings are states of like inner afflictions. There's the outward afflictions, then the inner afflictions, the inner problems that person feels agitated. They feel like saying something bad to people. They feel like not praying. They don't feel like doing anything. Sometimes, a person is in such a state that if you say anything to them, all you get is like harshness back. But you don't know that person and what state he's going through, what's affecting him. So he might be going through a certain state. Then the Mashayikhs give a solution to this as well. That if a person falls in this state, then just pray your 5 prayers and your nawafil, and then just walking along, pray 100 times Surah Ikhlas until the person feels strong again. And then inshallah, when he gets inclination to do good deeds again, then he comes back onto this as well. So the person, if he feels down and out, don't think, oh, today I feel down and out. No, meaning that person where even the smallest of good deed becomes like a struggle to him. So when he becomes in that state, then 5 times prayer and Surah Ikhlas until he gets back up again. But what the Mashaykh is saying, that if a person does the amal in that state when he's feeling like this, then what will happen is that amal that he's doing, that good deed that he's doing, will be of a very high value, very high ranking. That deed, because why? Because now he's doing it with sincerity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for nothing else. Now there's not a mixture of the nafs inside, sometimes the mixture of the nafs is inside as well. Or I feel like doing good deeds. So a person does it, but he's trying to make his nafs happy as well, because there's a mixture of nafs involved. But this way, when he doesn't feel like doing it and he does it, then imagine how pure this is. So if a person doesn't feel like going out on dawah, but he gets up and he does it, imagine that reward of dawah. That dawah is just an immense reward. Immense reward for dawah. But imagine how that multiplies when the person doesn't feel like doing it and he does it. And when he doesn't feel like doing his zikr and he does it, imagine how it multiplies. It's a very high ranking, with the Mashaykhs saying this, that it's a very high ranking action that the person is doing, very high ranking. So anything that you don't feel like doing, and then the person does it. So the 6 is the test from the Mashaykhs. They set a test for people, and sometimes they don't even know that they're being tested. Every teacher has his own way of testing, which actually means developing the person, the seeker. So the person needs to be tested. So like, for example, when you do a certain course, at the end, there's certain exams and tests that you have to go through. So the Mashaykhs put them through these certain tests. So some Mashaykhs become harsh, just a matter of test. They might say something to you in a harsh manner, just to test you, to see what your reaction is. Some assign certain duties. Then you get certain duties given to see what it does. Some will say certain things. Some Mashaykh will say certain things. Some will just listen and let the other speak. And this is a more severe test. When you speak in front of the Mashaykhs and they listen. Sometimes when they correct you, that's a lesser test than when they just silently listening to you. That is more of a test. Because whatever you speak, you're going to be held accounted for. So they say when the teacher is interrupting and saying and correcting, that is a normal state. But if you're saying things and they are listening, then this is a test. This is also a form of test. So the Mashaykhs test people with different instructions, very harsh instructions. This is also part of their training. So it can be a service to a deen. So a person can never cheat. Because if he cheats, he's only cheating himself. He's not cheating anybody else. So ultimately, really, Mashaykhs, what they're saying is that they are just the tools of test. It's really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing the person through the Mashaykhs. So it's very, very important that, like if something happens, whatever happens, have this rule in your mind. whatever the Mashaykh say, it is truth. Whatever my thinking is wrong. Yeah? Whatever they say is the truth. Whatever my thinking is wrong. Whatever action they give me to do, I will act upon that to the best of my ability. Nobody can be perfect, but you can't just disregard it. If you've been given a job to do, you can't disregard it and say, okay, I'm going to leave it, or I don't feel like doing it. You have to do it no matter what. You have to do it. But you just do it to the best of your ability. If you have any problems, then you can always go back. So any instructions, and if they're harsh with me, whichever way they say, for example, if my nafs dislikes it, it's still good for me. So whatever they do to me, basically, whether they shout at me, whether they be nice to me, whether they give me a duty, whatever is for my development, my training, and I accept everything. You got to tell your nafs this, because the nafs is such a thing that it goes against the teacher. What happened to the shaitan? Went against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the nafs today goes against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The nafs goes against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The nafs will go against the mashaykhs. And this will happen. That's why you have to develop this. You have to keep on reminding yourself that no, whatever my teacher said, I have to act on it. And don't take it with a pinch of salt. So number 7, a person will get tested through visions or dreams. And that's why you see that many people have been destroyed through this. Many people have been destroyed through visions and dreams. Some have, they mentioned that some have been given guidance. Many have been destroyed. So can you see the ratio between the two? Many have been destroyed. Some is very, very, very important for you to understand this. People rely on their visions and dreams. You don't rely on your visions and dreams. Visions or dreams is that something, what the Mashaykh is saying, that people think that visions or dreams, or the unseen world. But really, the real unseen world is this world that we're living in. How, you may ask, how can this be the real unseen world? They mentioned that in the world of spirits, we might have been there millions of years. So where are we in the unseen world? Yeah. And then when we die, where are we going to be? For millions of years and eternity. Whether it's, may Allah grant us everybody into paradise, whether it's Jannah or Jahannam, you're going to be there millions of years. So what they're saying is that the moment you were born, there's like glasses were put upon your eyes, and now the real world, the unseen world has really, we're getting a vision of this world really. We're getting a vision of this world. The reality is when we die, that's the real world, yeah. But this is the visionary world that we're living in today. So we've got glasses. The moment you were born, the glasses were put upon your eyes, and you're in the visionary world. This world is a vision. This world is not real. And when you die from this world, then the other world, that is the real world. So we're in a visionary world. It's like people get visions, isn't it? Like they see the other world, but we're seeing this world. So this is the vision. So the people get through visions and dreams, and as you know, what happened to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam? They had a communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through a dream, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them to sacrifice their son. Wasn't that a test? That was a big test. That person went through. So the person will get through. He might get certain visions or dreams or whatever. And he should never act upon that. He should never act upon what he sees or what he dreams. He should never act upon this. Never. Until he gets guidance from the mashaykhs. Until he gets the guidance. So a person might see something, or he might see something, a vision, whatever, and he starts acting upon it. He doesn't know what it means, what that vision means. He doesn't know whether that vision, whether it's the right guidance or the wrong guidance. He doesn't know when the other person, he might be, imagine the shaitan can take many forms. He can come into the forms of different beings. He can make himself look beautiful and say, I'm a prophet. Alayhi salam. So he can come into the form of different mashaykhs and say, I'm this person and I'm that person. And he's giving you guidance. He's saying, do this, do that. Yeah? So how do you know? You don't know. And who will know? Your teacher will know. By the words that when you relate your vision, dream, they'll know whether it's from shaitan or not. So that's very important. Sometimes people get dreams and they say to somebody and they start interpreting the dream, and then it's completely wrong. What he's saying is completely wrong because that wasn't the meaning of the dream. That wasn't the meaning of the dream, or that wasn't the meaning of the vision. And he makes his own. So disregard everything until, for example, you get in touch with the mashaykhs or people in charge, people who they have put in charge, and they relate it to you what it means, and then you can start acting upon it. Otherwise, so you just leave it. Now, if I'm going to ask the 7 points, we'll see who can remember the 7 points that I mentioned. This is what I mean, isn't it? So if you don't know the points that I've just mentioned, then it's going to be difficult for you to act on it. So shall we say collectively? Can anybody remember point number 1? Usman? Zukamur, mashallah. So he's paying attention. Point number 2? Yeah, mashallah, doing the sheets and stuff, yeah. That's right. Number 3? Attending the gatherings of knowledge, mashallah. Imran's got on the ball today. MashaAllah. Number 4. So them 3 are to do with your own, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with your own power and your own freedom of choice to do these things. That's the first 3 parts. What was the 4th one? So if something is in your ability to do, then the 4th is something which is not in your ability. Okay, I'll give a key point. Yeah. Did somebody say something? Sure. No. Let's say promotion. Yeah, going through difficulties and afflictions. Yeah. So even key points, if you remember the key points, then automatically, I just said one point, yeah, one word, yeah, and suddenly everybody knew. So even jotting down the key points, yeah, you'll remember the whole 7 points, For example, sometimes, like there's certain du'as I need to remember, or certain things in it. So why do I just get the letter of each one? I just remember each one, and then what will happen is that then I remember what I'm supposed to remember. So, number 5, something to do with yourself. No. It's something to do inwardly. Inner states, yeah. So, if you're going through happy state, sad state, whatever state you're going, if you're going inclined towards goodness, and remember the solution that was given if a person doesn't feel like doing anything. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so 5 times prayer, meaning the Sunnah, the Faraz, and the Nawafil, and Surah Ikhlas 100 times. Mashaykh says, you don't have to sit there reading Surah Ikhlas, just walk around wherever you're going and just read it 100 times. It'll have an amazing effect on this. And number 6, something to do with the Mashaykhs. Tests, yeah. So the Mashaykhs will put you through a test. So when you're in front of the Mashaykhs, yeah, always be aware of what's going on. Always be aware. Pay attention to every little key detail, every action, every movement. Pay attention. Is this a test for me? What do I need to do at this moment in time? That's why I said that the brothers are there, because the brothers around Hasab, the ones who are especially developed and trained, you learn from them. You know what I mean? You learn from them how do they act in front of Hasab. That's how the way I should be acting as well. So, and finally, the last one, what I just talked about. The last point. What was the last thing I mentioned before? Vision and dreams, yeah. So a person can be tested through this as well. So inshallah, I hope we all remember and practice on this. And remember, any time that you go through any of these states, yeah, always remember the answer to that. You know what I mean? So if you're feeling weak, come to the petrol station and recharge your batteries. And remember, your sheets, zikr, meditation go hand in hand. All these three things go hand in hand. If you go weak, then one of the three is missing. Something is missing. Either you're not doing your amals, either you're not coming to the gatherings, or the third thing that we mentioned. Okay, inshallah, it's going to be namaz time soon. So subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.